Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the Small Quiet Voice conversation. I hope you're having a wonderful day. With us today is an amazing woman, a fierce leader named Dian Oved. And Diane is a Wharton graduate, founder and CEO of an amazing organization called Empower Digital. And she is an entertainment industry veteran with so much street cred that I can sense it from LA. And I am in Florida right now. Diane, welcome to the Small Quiet Voice podcast. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much, Shannon. I'm so happy to be here.
This is going to be a fun conversation. So let's get into it. I want to know more about you and your professional path and how you went into this. Like I know part of your story, and I can't wait for our viewers to hear all about it. So just dish and tell us all about you.
Yeah, of course. Happy to give you kind of my story and background. I actually started out in finance in the entertainment industry. Trained in finance from Wharton and was doing finance in the music business and in the film business at EMI Music, Capitol Records, and at the Weinstein Company.
Wow.
And then I was really lucky to be a part of MySpace when MySpace was the biggest social network in the world. And I was working there in the music department. And while I was there, I realized that this form of communication was going to be the future, that this was going to shape how brands and talent and even governments communicated, this new form of media. So after I worked at MySpace, I essentially, created my own career path in this new digital space, this that we now call, digital media, social media. Back
Diane, just to give our viewers a little perspective, what year did you start working at MySpace?
I was there in 2006, 2007 timeframe.
Okay. So I was about that same time period. I was working as an interactive specialist in a newspaper, and nobody really knew what we were doing, but we knew that there was social media and there was these websites and there was Yahoo and all these ads. So I remember that time period. It was 2009 that I think we had this social media summit across our industry, and we were trying to figure out, how are our companies going to monetize this? What does it look like for a business to actually have a social media presence? Is it an okay thing? How do we do that? We didn't even have professional platforms back then. It was all personal ones. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I left MySpace in 2009. And then I continued working in the entertainment industry until basically working with a lot of celebrities and back in the music business. And then I started my own company, Empower Digital, in 2011. So it's been now 13 years, and I'm really lucky to have an incredible team. And essentially, you can think of me basically as a holistic marketing and PR strategist, and I help companies and individuals and even governments with essentially any aspect of communications, and I help people figure out what type of marketing and PR they need to be investing in so that they're not wasting money on tactics or platforms that aren't going to yield a return. So, so that's my specialty in handling all things digital, essentially, from the social media to the content creation to PR to websites and more.
Awesome.
And then, yes, most recently, as we've discussed, I've launched these really great business consulting programs because over the years, I've actually helped a lot of people in business because I've gone through so many trials and tribulations with individuals and with companies around the world. I've learned so much about how to do business properly and how to have success through trial and error and through other mentors that I've had over the years. So now I'm in addition to, running my agency, I'm helping a lot of people with solving problems in business, solving friction that happens either with a crisis in an organization or friction that happens between individuals, whether that's a colleague or a boss or a client, and really going into the situation with clients and guiding them on how to solve the problems and communicate better, like literally going in and helping to write emails and text messages and
Wow.
yeah, telling them what to say, like in the meeting, in meetings with certain specific people, so that to resolve situations and handle difficult people.
That's so cool. So I have so much to ask you. So the first thing I want to know are what are some people that you've worked with over the years? And you said a government. That's neat. Tell us more
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so I've worked with a whole host of celebrities from Maroon 5 to Sarah Bareilles to Three Doors Down, Raphael Sadiq, Timbaland, the major music producer, Christina Milian. I mean, there's so many lovely people that I've worked with. And as far as companies go, I've worked with global brands, from technology brands to gaming companies to consumer goods, fashion, all types of brands. And I've worked with different governments from Egypt. I'm also working extensively in the Gulf in Saudi Arabia on projects. So I work a lot in Europe as well. I have clients in France. So it's really important to me to have a global perspective and create that bridge between countries. So that's also something, I'm passionate about in my work.
That's so cool. So just looking back on your career, I realized that in 2009 and 2011, marketing was kind of a new thing. I got my degree in 2009, and although I wasn't at the levels you were at, we experienced very similar paths where there really wasn't anyone to define, who do you ask? Who do you ask? So you had mentioned you had some mentors along the way. So let's talk a little bit about what that looked like professionally and how those people helped you get into this, burgeoning industry that you were kind of creating your own guidebook for.
Yeah, I mean, I've never had I've never had a mentor in business. All of the business, essentially, I figured out on my own through just working extremely hard and a lot of reading and trial and error and learning. And I'm an avid reader, so I just try and absorb information from wherever I can. And, I've had some like informal mentors over the years, but more from like an emotional, spiritual, like healing perspective to keep me calm and grounded, to give me techniques to stay calm and grounded when in these, crisis situations or dealing with really toxic and narcissistic individuals. So those mentors have more come in from helping me on the emotional side, but I've been honestly primarily have done it all on my own from the business side.
Wow. Interesting.
Relying on my intuition and experience, both of those.
Oh, and that's what we're great at as women, like how do I put this cog into this wheel to make things work, and designing systems around things that are best practices and discovering what are the best practices. And in some cases, it sounds like you defined what those best practices were. So hats off to you, sister.
Yeah, I mean, there are no rules these days, to be honest, especially when COVID hit and the pandemic hit. No one knew what to do. So I had to use my intuition to create a blueprint for every client for how to respond every day to all of the different political crises and different things that were going on over, especially the first 6 months of the situation. So how to pivot the business, how to respond to social and political issues. I had to make up as I went with my clients based on everything I knew and my intuition. I had to guide them every day. And that's what we all have to do now, because the world is so unpredictable and we're in a new era now. And that's, what I teach people to do.
How does a leader know when to ask for help?
I would just say, use your intuition. First ask yourself, I have a really strong connection with my internal guidance system or intuition, right? So if I'm struggling with a decision, I first go inside and I ask myself, and I still myself and I quiet myself and I ask myself what to do. And if I'm not getting a clear answer, or if I'm having a hard time stilling myself, that's when I would get someone's advice, but 99% of the time, if I just calm down enough and ground myself enough, I have all of the answers and I can, figure out a path forward.
Yeah, I work with business leaders that struggle with asking for help, and some of them are men and some of them are older, and a lot of people in those roles have built successful businesses, and the playbook from 20 years ago is a different playbook than it is now. So what type of things are you doing to help business leaders succeed with these new challenges that are presented to them?
It's so case by case and so specific. One of the big things that's showing up a lot is, we kind of have an epidemic of narcissists in business, and a lot of the women and men that I deal with in business, we all, a lot of people are facing toxic work environments and toxic client situations where they're actually being emotionally abused by someone. And a lot of people don't know what narcissism is. And I've studied narcissism for many years with a therapist. So I have extensive experience in this area. And so I'm able to now teach people how to read red flags when they're being emotionally abused and manipulated and gaslit. And a lot, this is something that is, it's really good that it's becoming more mainstream, that people are talking about this, because before people just felt really upset and stressed.
These guys were just jerks. We didn't have a diagnosis. Yeah.
No, we didn't know what was happening. We were just miserable, right? We were being abused and we were being, having stress in these horrible work environments. And we didn't know how to break apart the situation and understand this is what they're actually they're projecting on me, or they are making me sound crazy when they're actually lying, or, there are all these things that they do to create this manipulation and control. And the goal is basically control. So, in the past, we were just stressed, and now we have the tools, and this is what I'm teaching. I'm teaching people how to actually read people in real time, read energy, read communication, so they can recognize exactly what's happening in the conversation. And then they know how to respond and communicate, because communication with a narcissist is unlike communicating with any normal person with what I call a normal operating system. Narcissists, they're actually insecure and have self-hatred. So you have to be careful when in your communications to not trigger them. So it's this delicate balance of setting boundaries with the narcissist, but also communicating in a way that doesn't trigger them, so then they can retaliate. If you trigger them, what they'll do is they'll retaliate against you, and then because they feel threatened, and then they'll try and hurt you. So this is happening all the time in business, and people have no idea. So it's really important for me to get to help people with this.
That's a fascinating point. And I wonder, can a narcissist really be effective in business if this is, how they operate? And I wonder if this is kind of something that we need to look at from a holistic view as consultants and go, this is something that we need to get real about. If the diagnosis is there and people know this is how they are, how effective can those people really be in those leadership roles? So I don't know what the solution is, one-on-one counseling, or if it's, just strategies that bring more awareness to this issue. But I can foresee, in the future, we really have to focus on these types of personalities and these types of communication that, is a lot of work to learn and kind of some mental gymnastics to implement, but it's really necessary.
Yeah, look, these narcissists have to date been successful in business because they're in this dualistic model of conquer, right? Mm-hmm. Conquer people, control, manipulate, and greed, to win, to obviously get money and be successful. And this old model that's collapsing. Yeah. that's not correct. Like, we need to move into this, we need to usher in together a new era of teamwork, of working together, where it's not about defeating someone and winning, but it's more circular. It's about working together so that there's enough for everyone, right? There's enough for everyone. You don't need to defeat someone or destroy them to be successful. And so that's what we need to teach. We need to teach that there is an alternative model to this dualistic model that the narcissists are stuck in, and show how we can all work together, essentially.
Oh, that's such good stuff. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Let's get off the topic of narcissists for a minute, because it's a big deal, but it's kind of like it's a lot of work. So tell me about your career in times that you've worked with a diverse group of people and you've come up against a challenge. Maybe that's a guy versus a girl, some type of feministic, communication that you were able to kind of, help them out of that, kind of help them think their way out of that. Do you have any examples or any stories you could share with us?
Yeah, of course. There's so many examples. I'll give you just kind of one general example. Let's say there's a man in business working with a woman, and a lot of men, they think very quickly on their feet, and communication comes out just very quickly without a lot of off the cuff. So it could come off as rude or inappropriate, or not coming at the right time, and not sophisticated. And so a lot of women, getting these types of texts or emails from a client or a colleague about, let's say, a business situation, it could come off just like, like they're stepping on their toes, that they're, taking control. They're trying, like they're trying to, again, take over a situation, where it's actually, in fact, just the communication style between men and women. Women have a more thoughtful approach. They're considering, it's a more circular, thoughtful approach, where, again, they're considering all parties. How is everyone going to digest the information before I send the email, before I send the text? So it's just more considerate and thoughtful, because we're more like naturally empathetic, right? Where a man, like, they are more, first of all, they're not as good as multitasking as women. And so they're not thinking about different topics altogether. Like, if it's a complex situation, they have an idea and they're getting it out really quickly. And they don't realize, like, oh, who was on that email? Was that person supposed to be on that email, or did I send it too soon, or was that the right word to say? And that's just because of just their, literally how their brain works and how they're communicating. So, I deal with this all the time. When this happens, I just have to have a conversation with the person and explain to them, how we can, tweak the communication in the future, so that we don't run into conflict with a project or a client. So there's a difference in communication styles, and also just how the information is processed, because men generally can only process one thing at a time, while women can juggle many things at once. So a lot of women too may get offended, let's say, if a man forgets something, if they forget to address something, but it's literally only because their mind can't handle so many things at once. They can literally only handle what they're thinking about right now and what's in front of them. So if they forgot about it, and you're like, you feel like upset because you have to follow up on something so many times, and you're like taking it personally. Oh my God, they don't care about me. They forgot about me. And you're spinning into this emotional thing. It's actually, no, their brain cannot handle it. And they have to deal with one thing at a time. And if they're dealing with something else, like, you're going to have to wait for them to finish this one thing until you go back to them at the right time and be like, hey, respectfully, following up on this. And then they're gonna be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I totally forgot, because they can't handle it. They get overwhelmed so quickly. And I know this is generalizing, and some men are not like this, but a lot of men, they get really overwhelmed really fast, and they're just, honestly, they're a bit more scattered. And so it's not a judgment thing, it's just a fact. And we have to just observe it and then figure out how to work with it, basically.
Yeah. So as a consultant, when you come in and you talk to folks about their opportunities to improve, and also you edify those people that are doing a really good job with their tasks and their processes. And you have a staff now. You have a big team that helps you with all of your clients. So I'm wondering, as a manager and as a consultant in both those roles, how do you approach someone, and how do you maybe motivate them to perform a little differently? Not going to say better, but maybe in a little different role. And how do you motivate them when they do a good job? And how does that look like in your world?
Sure. So, with my team, I'm always, complimenting them on their hard work and their good work. Every day, positive feedback is crucial. Constructive criticism, everybody needs to be able to handle, but, more times, it's more often where I'm giving just like positive, constructive, telling people how much they've improved. And it's really appreciated because people are not acknowledged for their good work, most of the time. And so when it does happen, it makes people feel good, and that's motivating, and to be honest, I think as far as how to make people care or be passionate about, look, people need to feel that they're being heard, that they're being respected, that they're part of a team, that we're all in this together. The less hierarchy you can have, where we're all working together and we're all trying to solve this together, and the less problems you're going to have, and people are just going to want to do good work. But there's also an internal part where, some people are just innately passionate about things and they want to do a good job. And, I'm self-driven, and I've been the same person since I was 10 years old. I've always been, this hardworking, passionate, driven person. So some of it is a personality thing. Like, you either have it or you don't. You either work hard, you're passionate, and you want to do a good job, or not. But then having that environment, that supportive environment, without any negativity, any drama, super open communication, flat hierarchy, that's what's really going to help support and make someone feel good.
That's an awesome answer. Yeah, you are innately passionate, and I have no doubt that you've always been wired this way, because I sense you as a kindred person. Like I feel like we're cut from the same cloth, because I feel the same way. I've always been that little girl that asked why, and I pissed my parents off. And my supervisors in the Air Force, they just wanted to say, "Do this, Airman Clonch," and I was like, "But why? This doesn't make sense." And, about half the time they could say, "This is why." And it would make me go, "Okay, this is an important thing. I didn't think this was important. I have to, do this before I do that. And that's why I can't see outside my specter." So because I was, always asking why, I kind of got in trouble sometimes too. And I think as a good manager, you've got to be ready for the whys, because you're going to have certain people that are going to come to you and go, I don't want to do this. This is too much work. And this seems foolish. Now, the other half of the time, I could, as a person that was doing the work every day, right, I could say, "I see this as an inefficient process. I think we could implement this here and make this better. Do you think that would work?" Knowing the full scope of what I do and how it fits into the department or the company. And a lot of times I was able to take those things that I saw as, maybe not as efficient processes, and we could, grease the wheel, if you will, and make things better. So I think that's I don't know if that's Gen X. I don't know if that's how we're just the way we are, but
Definitely.
Yeah, it's
I think part of it is Gen X,
Yeah.
but you find the gems and the millennials and the Gen Z too, that are, it's just finding the people that we all have the same work ethic and perception and style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that is fun. We've had a good conversation, but I'm wondering what's next for you. Where are you going? What kind of projects are you working on? Tell us what's coming.
So what I'm really focused on now is, my consulting practice. I've just launched these programs, these business programs where I'm helping people become better leaders, and solve conflict and use their intuition better in business. And of course, deal with the narcissists and deal with people. So as I run my agency, that's not going anywhere. My focus is really on having these one-on-one dialogues with executives and entrepreneurs to help them just have a better life in business, have a smoother business path, and so that they're not under so much stress, because stress kills.
Oh, yeah.
Look, I've had situations in my life where I've been ill physically from stress, from that's ultimately, at the end of the day, it's your fault. Like, you have to take responsibility for it, and it's because you let it happen to you.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, we need to have the tools to recognize and observe when the stress is coming in, and then how to release it. And this is stuff we're not taught. Nobody teaches this stuff in school. So we all need to really help each other. And it's my mission. My mission now is to really help, everyone, men and women, ease their stress in business and solve these problems. And so that they have a better life and they're happy and they figure out what to do. They figure out if they're in the right business situation or if they need to exit it, if it can be solvable or not. It's a very tricky thing. Some situations cannot be fixed and then they need to exit very quickly and move on to the next thing. But some things can be resolved, so it's just a matter of figuring that out. So, people are just happier in general.
Yeah, it's so true. So if folks want to hire your agency, they can go to powerdigitalmarketing.com.
Yeah, empower-digital.com. Or they can email me as well. But yeah, and they can reach out to me in any way. And I'm always happy to set up a consultation with someone to see if it's a good fit, to see if I can help them. And yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Okay. So as far as the consulting side too, is that they can fill out the contact us form on your website?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Would you say that URL one more time, please?
Yeah, my website is empower, EMPOWER -digital.com. And yeah, they'll see on the website, there's a section called Work with Dian, and they can see all the different programs I have. And then they can just, go on the contact form and send me a note. And yeah, I'm happy to get to know people more and just see, how we can help each other.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to collaborating with you in the future. I can see us, sending each other clients all the time because
absolutely
people need the kind of stuff that we're offering them. And Dan, this has been such an amazing conversation and it's just been full of so many great tips. And I know it's going to help people. So thank you for appearing on the SQV today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I enjoyed the conversation so much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Just one more thing before we get off. Is there any other bits of wisdom that you want to share with our viewers?
Yes. I mean, if I could leave anyone with one thing, I would just say, don't panic. Don't ever panic about anything. Stay calm no matter what. And then you can resolve any situation from a calm state of mind.
That is excellent advice. One that I need to follow. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.